So we want to talk a little bit about the month. I want to talk a little bit about the month of Teves. And something unusual happens during this month, during the month of Teves, that if you notice that Lichtmenschen lighting of the candles on Friday night, this happens also in the winter, but it happens once in the summer, that the candle lighting is the same time for 2 weeks in a row, which means that the days were getting shorter, then the days are getting longer, and the midpoint between them, where the days are getting shorter, and the days are getting longer, sunlight, is a point where it actually doesn't move, so to speak, and you have the exact same time of lighting the candles. That means the beginning of Shabbat, the beginning of Shabbos starts on the exact same time. So this represents an idea of the opposite of movement. The days getting longer represents that more light is coming into this world. So that represents a form of revelation, that it's moving forward. The days getting shorter also represents another movement, which is moving downwards. So either you're moving up or you're moving down or closer or further. And then there's a point in Teves, which represents the month of Teves, which represents the point in between, which is not, there's no movement, there's no forward and there's no backwards. We have to understand what that means a little more. We'll make a little bit more in depth. So in general, the months of the year, there are 3 months of the year. The vision of the months basically is divided between Yaakov and Esav, 6 and 6. So the first 3 months of every season, let's say the spring belongs to Yaakov, then the next 3 belongs to Esav. And the same goes in the winter, the first 3 months, the fall is Yaakov, and then the next 3, Teves, Shvat, Adar. Shvat and Av, the parallel of Shvat and Av, were half transformed. Therefore, from Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av, it's already a time of celebration. And and Elul and Adar are completely transformed. So the 2 harsh months of the year, which one represents the coldest month of the year, which is Teves, and the hottest month of the year, which is Tammuz, still belong to the idea, to the domain of Esav. Which Esav, what does Esav mean? Esav represents the world of immediacy, asui, something that's formed, it's transformed, it's already done. This corresponds also to the world of the spiritual realm, the world of Toyu. That the world of Tikkun, the world of correction, is when there is moichin, intelligence, that is drawn down into the midas, into the emotions, and therefore every emotion, let's say a person is feeling chesed, in the state of tikkun, the expression of chesed, the feeling of chesed, of giving, is tampered with moichin, with intelligence, and therefore the person understands that they have to give, chesed, they're going to give chesed, they're going to give kindness, but it also comes with an understanding that maybe it's too much kindness, and therefore the real kindness is actually to restrict, to hold up, to be gvura. So the moichin allows for every sphera to be interwoven with the other sphera, every attribute to be interwoven with the other attribute. That's what moichin does. So moichin draws and contains the sphere in a way that doesn't allow it to fully express itself in its very raw, immediate form. In the world of Toyu, that's why the energy of Toyu is chaos. In the world of Toyu, Toyu represents this quality where everything is very in its own space, and therefore everything just wants to express itself in its rawest form. And therefore there's a clash between chesed and gvura, for example, or kindness and constriction, whatever the sphere is. But gvura, the quality of Toyu, the spiritual quality of Toyu, is represented very clearly in the character of Esav. And the character of Esav is very about the immediate, about a presence, about being gratified, instant gratification. So when Esav comes, in the story, in the Torah story, where Esav comes to Yaakov, and Yaakov represents Tikkun, and Esav represents Toyu. Where Esav comes to Yaakov and says that he's hungry, he says, give me this food. Give me this food right away because I'm hungry. And he says, I don't need the firstborn rights. I'm going to die tomorrow, and there's what do I need? What do I care about tomorrow? So he's very much about the idea of being very much just um, being in the present, being very much in the now, not in the now, but for the now. Like, what is the immediate pressing need right now? So therefore, Yaakov tells him, "Hishav li kayoim, swear to me like this day," means I want to take from you this understanding that you are just about just being in this presence, in the for now consciousness of just being. Give me food because I'm hungry, and sell it to me. And that's what he does. Yaakov Esav sells the Bechor, and he says, "There's no tomorrow. I don't understand about tomorrow. I don't understand about a Bechor." And therefore, Esav says, "Vayechel, vayesh, vayakam, vayelech, vayivaz." When it talks about what Esav does, he says he eats. He ate, he drank, he got up, he stood up, he walked. In other words, there's very little prose. There's very little description. It's just a very immediate. He ate, he slept, he got up, he walked. This is very immediate. This is someone that's living very much strongly present right now. That's why the Zohar, when it talks about the characters of Yaakov and Esav, will say that Esav represents the world of the sun. The sun is the world that's observed, the immediacy of what's observed, where Yaakov represents more and is connected with the world of the moon, which is like, you don't see it today, but you'll see it tomorrow. And even though you don't see it today, you have hope that there'll be a better tomorrow. Someone that lives with a certain intimation, a certain understanding, a certain consciousness, that even if they're living the present moment, whatever's going on, they understand that there's an unfolding and there's a future. So Esav lives very much in the now and the immediacy of the now. And that's the world of Toyu. We're going to understand whether this is a positive or negative thing, but this is the concept, the idea. What this represents is that someone that's living in the immediacy of what is going on right now. And Yaakov is a person that lives with Olam Haba, which is with a future. It's a sense of the now, how it's unfolding into a future. And the negative side of Esav, which means that there's the positive side, which is Reisha de Esav, the head of Esav, which means the spiritual quality of Esav, belongs also in the Mars Mapela, also belongs in the burial space with the patriarchs, with the Avos and the Imais. Because the positive quality is about presence in now. The negative quality is that it becomes just for the now. So I just do things, I eat, I sleep, I do whatever I have to do in this immediate moment, just in this, because it brings me instant gratification in this present moment. That's how it turns something positive into something negative. We'll talk a little bit more what the positive aspect of that is and how it's related to the month. So the month of Teves, which is connected to Esav, connected to the Capricorn, to the sign of Gedi, which also represents and is connected to Esav, is the sense of the month. The quality of the month is connected to seeing, to the ayin, the seeing, and seeing is also about the immediacy. What you see is what you know to be true. So I see something, and I know that it's immediate. That's what I can observe, and it's empirically true, and therefore I see it. So Esav, is connected to the ayin, and obviously Esav, like the Isis Rekiva, the Medrash brings out that Esav actually starts with an ayin. So that's the edom, the quality of what I see, what's immediate, what's immediately observed. So this is what the quality of Teves is. Teves, the name Teves, the name of the month Teves, in its Aramaic Talmudic version of what this word means is Toiv Bas, and Toiv Bas is the idea of that it's a month it's a good month for intimacy. This is why the Chazal, our sages, tell us with regards to Esther, which our sages, Chazal also tell us in Sanhedrin, is Karka Olam, this represents the immediacy of earth, that Esther marries Achashverosh during this month. And Chazal say, the sages say in Megillah, that that's because it's a yerech shaguf nenem in aguf. It's a month where the body can take pleasure in the body, which just represents at a physical level, but it also represents something much more on a spiritual realm. That there's two aspects here. There's the aspect of the world of Giluyim, the world of revelation, the world of where there's process, where a person is expressive in a particular emotion or a thought, that's the world of Giluyim, where a person is either moving up or moving down. But moving up or moving down is both in the experience of Giluyim. That's both in the experience of what's being revealed. Because whenever there's a movement, whether it's a movement up or it's a movement down, but any type of movement that a person's experiencing, that in itself is a movement outside of itself, outside yourself, because you're moving towards something or from something. Even the idea of the highest emotions that a person can experience, let's say Avas Hashem or Yiras Hashem, on the very, very subtle level, even Ava and Yira, love and awe, there's a yesh misha'oyev. There's Ava means there's a me, and I'm moving outside myself to love something that's outside of me. That's Avas Hashem. Or Yira, I'm in awe of the presence of the transcendence that's overwhelming to me. But by definition, it's not yichud. It's not absolute unity. This is why in the story in the Garden of Eden, in the Chet Tzadas, after the story that Adam and Chava are thrown out of the Garden of Eden, which represents deeply our own state of consciousness that's outside of the Garden of Eden, outside of Gan Eden, the story is that there's a cherv and a sapach, there's a sword, a swirling sword. There's these two swords that protect the Garden of Eden. And the Marachas Elokus, another early Mukubalim, right, other Kabbalists, right, that these swirling swords represents Aviyira. These represents emotions. Because to get back into the Garden of Eden, which is the garden of the place of absolute unity with no self-awareness, and this is what, when they eat from the tree of knowledge, what they experience is the beginning of self-awareness. And the self-awareness causes them to have shame because they become separate from their experiences of life. They become separate even from their body. When a person becomes aware of their body, that means that there is an awareness and there is their body, and they're two separate things, and they become aware of their body. But a person that's living, this is why a child in a very pristine state represents the state of being in Gan Eden, because they represent a being that has no self-consciousness, at least knows that they're not aware of separation. They're completely feel that actually the whole world is an extension of them, and therefore there's no sense of shame. This is the beginning of creation. So this represents the state where that when they became aware, when they became das, when they became an idea of self-awareness, they became a separation. And to enter back into the state of Gan Eden, to enter into the state of perfect unity, there cannot be any movement, because movement by definition means separation. If I'm moving towards something or from something, it means I'm not already there. So any form of movement is by definition already the world of a duality, where there's already a separation. And this is the oimek, this is the depth of what shaguf nenem aguf, that the body takes pleasure in the body. That there's kaviyachol, there's as if in our own state there is our neshama. And we're not making a distinction. We'll say that this is the way we'll define it. That this is neshama, which means our expressive self in the place of our emotions and our feelings and our instincts and our thoughts. That's where our uniqueness is being expressed, our expression in this world. And sometimes we're expressing and emoting in a positive way, and sometimes in not such a positive way. But that's one level of self. And then there's the guf hadavar, is the essence of the thing, the essence of self. The essence of self is beyond any expression. It just is. We just are. Now, being just as we are, we also express ourselves. So therefore, sometimes hopefully our expression is coming from a place of our being. But the being of self is when you're alone with yourself. You don't need to talk and you don't need to express. You just are. That's the guf. That represents the body. And kaviyachol, in the same dimension, we can also talk about kaviyachol, of course, that as if we can talk about our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our relationship with the Creator, with Hashem, is that there's the guf of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, of course, this does not mean literally, but there's a guf of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means like there's the atzmius, there's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the essence of Hashem. And the essence of Hashem is not an expression, it just is. So where does a person experience the totality of self or the fullness of self? In the immediacy of self, in the immediacy of the Creator. Where does a person experience that? That a person experiences in the body, in the guf. That when a person is in a process and in an emotion and an expression, they're moving towards something. So the highest level, this is the transformation of Teves, the transformation of the holy transformation of transforming the raw quality of Toyu, which is almost a sense where the way Esav lives this is a sense of it's just about my immediate gratifications right now in the present, and it's not about a past or a future, to the fullness of the experience of in the now. That I'm not living for the now, but I'm living in the fullness of this present moment. And I'll maybe give you a simple analogy, what this means. And this is a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, which is the Torah Chassidus, the teaching of Chassidus in general, is all about this, about the revealing of the atzmius of the thing, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and really to reveal, therefore, the atzmius of the guf, of the bechira that was, the particular bechira, the choice that was done in the body, in the immediate things, in the physicality of things. So there's two statements. The statement is that all your actions you do should be for the purpose of l'shem shamayim, for the purpose of heaven, which means that I'm doing an action. Let's say I'm doing a mitzvah. Okay, so schar mitzvah, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself, because I'm connected to the mitzvah. I'm connected to the source of the mitzvah, and that in itself is satisfying. That in itself is the mitzvah. Okay, that's what I'm doing a mitzvah. What happens if I am taking out the garbage or polishing my shoes? I'm doing something that's very mundane. So normally the way you think about it is that what the intention should be is that I should live my life saying that everything that I'm doing is l'shem shamayim, for the purpose of heaven. So I eat, I sleep, I do physical things in order for me to have strength to learn, to daven, to do mitzvahs, to do holy acts, in order to become a more godly person, more divine person. So the physical acts that I'm taking, the mundane activities that I'm involved with, is l'shem shamayim, for the purpose of God. But then there's a deeper thing. The Gemara says in Brachos that this is actually a small verse that the entire Torah is Talayim, that everything is connected to this pasuk, and that is b'chol derchecha de'eyu. B'chol derchecha de'eyu means in all your ways you shall know him. And like the Baal Shem teaches that the word de'eyu is da, hey, vav. So there is the Yud Kei. The Yud Kei is Hanistarus, represents the higher level of the name of Hashem, which is understanding the inner world of the person, and reflected in the person that represents the inner world, the person's thoughts, intuitions, and feelings, etc. And then there's the Vav Hey, which is a letter already more the outer expressions of a person, until the person's malchus, the immediacy of a person's actions, which is reflected in the four names in the four letters of the name Hashem. The letters Vav K, certainly the letter Hey, represents the immediacy, the malchus, the container, the vessel, the presence. So b'chol derchecha de'eyu means that in every single action, de'eyu means you should be connected. Das, the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, the idea of das is from lashon chibur. It represents intimacy. When the Torah wants to talk about physical intimacy, the euphemism that the Torah uses is va'adam yada eschava, because das, yada eschava, is a form of connectivity. So b'chol derchecha de'eyu means in all your actions you should you should be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem, which means not that I'm doing something only for the purpose of something else. I am cleaning the table in order for the table to be clean so I can have another meal and therefore I can eat, and then when I eat, I can have strength, so I can daven or I can learn. Okay, that's what L'Shem Shemayim. B'chol b'chechdei means that not that it's a process for something else, but the thing in itself is it, because it's the atzmis of the thing. You're not doing something because of something else. It's not a process that I'm doing something in order to get to another place. The thing in itself is the end in itself. But there's two ways how to think about this. There's what when you say the means and the ends. So let's say there's the means, and then there's the end. So there's the ma'isa mitzvah, the action, and then there's the tachlis, which is the dveikus, or the schar mitzvah is the mitzvah, the connection. When a person lives for the now, then they only live in the place of the means. When a person lives in the now, in the transformative understanding of olam hatoyu, which is when our guf nenem and our guf, the body, takes pleasure in the body, then it's the end that's in experience within the means. It's not that you're getting only from a means to get to an end, and not just a means that's separated from an end. It's just a means, and the means is good enough. You're experiencing the end in the means. You're experiencing the olam haba in the olam haza. You're experiencing the dveikus, the connection with the Eibishter, with Hashem, in the experience that you're actually having right now in this present moment. And that's the transformation of the immediacy of this idea. And this is really what the ultimate elevation, the ultimate transformation of Chodesh, of this month of Teves, where we're able to transform the chaotic qualities of Esav and the qualities of Toyu, and when things don't seem to be moving in either direction, when it's not going up and it's not going down. And that's really where the challenge is. When it's not going up and when it's going up, of course, that's obviously that there's giluyim, there's revealing, and you feel connected, you feel you're moving, you feel you're getting progress, and you feel your life is unfolding in the correct manner. Okay, that's beautiful, that's gewaldic. When your life is going down, for some, God forbid, for some reason, or things are spiraling out of control and you feel like you're falling, at least you're feeling. So you're falling, but you're moving. And if you're moving, you feel alive. But what happens when there is no movement? When it's just about taking out the garbage for taking out the garbage. And it just feels like you're just taking out the garbage. And it feels like your life is not going upwards and not going downwards. You feel like it's a static. It's stationary. It's just in one place. And that's what happens in Chodesh Teves. Chodesh Teves happens. What happens with the lighting of the candles? It's not Shabbos not getting longer. Shabbos not getting shorter. There's no movement of Shabbos. And yet, what is the transformation? Because everything, this is the harder avodah. This is much harder, the harder work that we have. That's what Chodesh Teves is, a harsh month. Like Chodesh Tammuz. Chodesh Teves is the Schalta, the older Prunius. It's the beginning of all the destructions, and Tammuz is the end of all the destructions. So there's something very harsh about this month, because there's a sense that a person become lethargic and lazy and maybe depressed because nothing's moving, because it feels like nothing is moving. And this is what we have to transform. We have to transform this understanding that we can take that quality of Toyu, the quality of Esav, which is about the immediacy of something, and without seeing a process and a before and an after, and a yesterday and a tomorrow, but see that in a positive way and say, how can I connect right now, fully be present in what I'm doing, with the recognition that the ends is actually in the means, that I'm actually experiencing a deeper connection. And it's so deep that I can't feel it. It's like the body, the guf, shenenem and guf, the body taking pleasure in the body. It's not revealed. There's no giluyim. There's no revelation. It's not super beautiful or the opposite. It's not, there's no revelation of moving up or moving down. It's just right now, and it's raw and it's immediate. And it feels it's just the body. But this is the body taking pleasure of the ultimate body. This is the experience that a person has to recognize that every single thing that they're doing in their life, every single aspect of their life, every single experience that they're having in their life, especially during this month and throughout the entire year, when they're experiencing this lack of up and down, a lack of movement, and just the stationary, just being to recognize the understanding, to be fully present in this moment, to be completely present, and say, okay, I'm going to do this completely, full-heartedly, completely be present in this action and this thing that I have to be doing in this thing in my life right now, And that's the way I can connect, and I can have a deep connection with the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the essence of Hashem, in this very moment. So that's Bekitzer, some of the ideas connected to this very special month of Chodesh Teves. So, Shalom, if you have any questions, if anyone wants to ask, I'll take a few questions.
Yeah, can we ask questions verbally?
Yeah, sure.
So, first of all, thank you.